Ethan Carter looked out the big windows of his office on the top floor of Horizon Tower. He could see the whole city below him, with lights shining in the darkness. Space stations floated above Earth, with small ships moving between them like tiny bugs. Ethan frowned as he turned away from the window. Something was wrong with his company and he needed to find out what it was. The reports don't match what the workers are saying, he said to himself. His assistant, Olivia Patel, looked up from her computer screen. Is something wrong, sir? The outer colonies are complaining about late shipments and missing items. But our managers say everything is fine. Ethan walked to his desk and sat down. I need to see for myself what's happening. You want to go undercover again? Olivia asked. She had helped him do this before when there were problems in other parts of the company. Yes, the Mars warehouse seems to be where most of the problems are coming from. Warehouse 17 to be exact. Olivia touched her screen a few times and pulled up some information. That's Keith Russell's area. He's been the boss there for 3 years now. What do we know about him? The numbers look good on paper. High output, fast shipping times. Olivia paused. But workers quit a lot more than in other places. Twice as many people leave his warehouse compared to others. Ethan nodded slowly. That was a bad sign. Set it up. I'll be Alex Watson, new worker who counts inventory. Say I just moved from the Europa moon base. When do you want to leave? Tomorrow, Ethan said. And make sure I travel like a normal worker, no special treatment. I'll have everything ready in an hour, sir. After Olivia left, Ethan looked out the window again. Far above Earth, Mars glowed red in the black sky. Something was wrong out there, and he was going to fix it. The next day, Ethan boarded a regular worker transport ship to Mars. He wore plain clothes and carried a simple bag with basic items. No one on the ship knew he was the boss of the whole company. The trip to Mars took 3 days. Ethan spent the time studying the warehouse plans and worker rules. He needed to look like he knew what he was doing, but not too much. A new worker would still make some mistakes. When the ship finally reached Mars, Ethan waited in line with the other workers to get off. A woman standing next to him smiled. First time on Mars? She asked. Ethan nodded, trying to look nervous but excited. Is it that easy to tell? The woman laughed. I'm Laura Johnson, she said, pointing to her name tag. I work in the medical center. I've been going back and forth from Earth to Mars for 5 years now. Alex Watson, Ethan said, shaking her hand. I'm going to be counting inventory at Warehouse 17. Laura's smile got smaller. That's Keith Russell's place. Is that bad? Before Laura could answer, a voice came over the speakers. All new workers, please go to the check-in area. The surface transport leaves in 30 minutes. That's you, Laura said. Good luck, Alex. Maybe I'll see you at Danny's bar sometime. That's where most of us go after work. Ethan thanked her and joined the line for new workers. He didn't like how Laura had reacted when he mentioned Warehouse 17. It made him more sure that something was wrong there. 2 hours later, Ethan stood on the red dirt of Mars, looking up at the huge building that was Warehouse 17. It was big enough to hold several football fields inside. This was where supplies from Earth were sorted and sent to colonies even farther away. Watson, a sharp voice called. Stop looking around and get inside. The meeting started 5 minutes ago. Ethan turned to see a man with an angry face and a supervisor badge. Not a friendly welcome to Mars. Inside, the warehouse was loud and busy. Workers moved boxes, drove small transport vehicles, and checked items on computers. A tall man with a loud voice was talking to a group of new workers. This had to be Keith Russell, the warehouse boss. Our job is simple, Russell was saying. We get stuff, we count it, we send it where it needs to go. No mistakes, no delays, no excuses. If we mess up, people in the outer colonies don't get what they need. Russell walked back and forth in front of the new workers. Each of you will work in a different area. Learn your job fast. We track every second of your work time. This company doesn't pay for lazy people. Ethan listened carefully. The work goals Russell mentioned were at least 15% higher than what the company rules actually required. This was the first problem he found. and he'd only been there 10 minutes. After the talk, a middle-aged man named Frank Miller showed Ethan to his work area. "You'll be checking medicine shipments," Frank explained. "You got lucky. Russell doesn't mess with the medicine counts too much." "Too much?" Ethan asked, trying to sound just curious. Frank looked around to make sure no one could hear. "Some areas have numbers that don't add up right, but that's not our problem. Just do your job, keep quiet, and you'll be fine." Over the next 3 days, Ethan learned how the warehouse worked. He found small mistakes in the inventory that most people wouldn't notice. But when added together, these small mistakes meant a lot of missing items. He also saw that workers here had longer hours, fewer breaks, and bigger punishments than workers on Earth. On the 4th day, Ethan noticed another worker named Sam Collins looking sick. Sam was pale and sweating even though the room wasn't hot. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked during their short break. Sam jumped a little, then tried to stand up straight. "I'm fine, just a little sick. I need to finish my work today." "You should go see a doctor," Ethan said, noticing that Sam had a fever. "I can't," Sam whispered. "If we miss work 3 times, Russell cuts our pay. I already missed 2 days when my daughter was sick this month." Before Ethan could say anything else, Russell's loud voice called across the room. "Collins, Watson, break time ended 2 minutes ago." Ethan went back to his workstation, feeling angry inside. This was not how his company was supposed to work. This was not what he had built Horizon to be. He needed to see more proof of what Russell was doing wrong. But Ethan had already decided. Things were going to change at Warehouse 17, and soon. By the start of his 2nd week at Warehouse 17, Ethan had found many problems. The inventory system was full of small mistakes. Safety rules were often ignored to work faster, and the way Keith Russell treated the workers was harsh and unfair. Ethan wrote down everything he saw in a small computer he kept hidden in his room. He needed strong proof before he could take action. But the thing that made him most angry was how sick workers were treated. Sam Collins still came to work even though he was clearly sick. His face was pale and he moved slowly. Ethan tried to help him when Russell wasn't watching. "You really should see a doctor," Ethan said during lunch break. Sam shook his head. "Can't risk it. My daughter needs medicine for her breathing problem. It's expensive. If Russell cuts my pay, we won't be able to buy it." "Is there no company health plan?" Ethan asked, knowing very well that Horizon provided good health care to all workers and their families. "There is," Sam said quietly. "But Russell makes it hard to use. He says paperwork gets lost or the request isn't filled out right. By the time it's fixed, people just give up." This made Ethan even more angry. He had created those health plans himself 5 years ago. The idea that his own workers couldn't use them because of a bad manager was unacceptable. "Just hang in there," Ethan told Sam. "Things might change soon." Sam gave a weak smile. "That's what everyone says when they first get here. You'll learn." Later, that day, disaster struck. Sam was moving boxes of medicine when he suddenly fell to the floor. Ethan was the first to reach him. Sam's skin was burning hot. "Someone call medical," Ethan shouted. Workers gathered around, looking worried but not surprised, as if they had seen this happen before. No one wanted to call for help, afraid of getting in trouble with Russell. Finally, a young woman ran to the wall and pushed the emergency button. Moments later, Russell stormed onto the floor, his face red with anger. "What's going on? Why has work stopped?" "Sam collapsed," Ethan explained, still kneeling beside the sick man. "He needs a doctor right away." Russell looked down at Sam with cold eyes. "Collins, this is your 3rd incident this month. You know the rules." Even in his weak state, Sam's eyes filled with fear. "Please, Mr. Russell, I can't lose the pay. My family needs it." "You should have thought about that before disrupting the warehouse," Russell said coldly. 20% pay cut this month. Maybe that will remind you to stay healthy." "He has a high fever," Ethan said, standing up to face Russell. "He shouldn't even be working in this condition." Russell turned his angry eyes on Ethan. "Watson, isn't it? New guy? Maybe you don't understand how things work on Mars. We have limited resources here. If Collins can't do his job, there are consequences. The company has rules about sick leave. Ethan pushed back, helping Sam sit up as two medical workers finally arrived with a stretcher. "I am the rules in Warehouse 17, Russell said firmly. "Now get back to work or join Collins in learning a hard lesson." The medical team took Sam away. Russell turned to the watching workers. "Let this be a reminder to all of you, we don't have room for weakness here. Back to work now." The workers quickly returned to their stations, but Ethan could see the anger and fear on their faces. This wasn't right. This wasn't the company he had built. Horizon was supposed to care for its workers, not treat them like machines. That night in his small room, Ethan took out a special communication device that Olivia had given him. It could send secure messages directly to Earth without being traced. "Olivia, it's worse than we thought," he said once the connection was made. "Russell is breaking every worker protection rule we have. He's denying sick leave, cutting pay unfairly, and ignoring safety standards. Do you have proof?" Olivia's voice came through clearly. "Plenty," Ethan confirmed. "I need you to start Protocol Sunshine immediately and call the board for an emergency meeting. We need to clean house." "It's ready when you are, sir," Olivia replied. "Just need your code word. Carter Epsilon 79. Start at Ebro 800 Mars time tomorrow." "Understood. Good luck, sir." Ethan ended the call and lay back on his bed. Tomorrow would be a big day at Warehouse 17. A day of truth and justice. The next morning, Ethan got to the warehouse earlier than usual. He noticed right away that something was different. There were new people in security uniforms standing at various points around the building. They looked professional and alert, not like the regular warehouse guards. The workers came in as usual, looking tired and resigned to another hard day. None of them noticed the new security people or the slight changes in the computer screens around the warehouse. At exactly 8 euro, Keith Russell walked in. He moved like he owned the place, striding across the floor and barking orders at workers who didn't move fast enough for him. "Morning briefing in 5 minutes," he shouted. "Anyone late gets a mark on their record." The workers quickly gathered in the main area. Russell stood in front of them, ready to start his daily list of threats and demands. But before he could speak, something strange happened. All the screens in the warehouse suddenly lit up with the Horizon Company logo. Then, a face appeared. On every screen, Ethan's face, not as Alex Watson the worker, but as Ethan Carter, CEO of Horizon Interplanetary Logistics. A wave of surprised whispers spread through the workers. Russell's face turned white as he stared at the screens. Then he turned and saw Alex Watson standing calmly among the workers. Ethan stepped forward, standing tall and confident, no longer pretending to be just another worker. "Good morning, Warehouse 17, he said in a strong, clear voice. "For those who don't know me, I'm Ethan Carter." "What is this?" Russell sputtered, looking from Ethan to the screens and back again. "This, Mr. Russell, is what we call accountability," Ethan replied. "For the past 2 weeks, I've been working alongside these good people, seeing firsthand how you've twisted company policies and abused your power." The security people moved forward, surrounding Russell, who now looked scared instead of powerful. "You can't do this," Russell protested. "I've met every work goal, every shipping target." "By hurting the very people who make this company work," Ethan cut him off. "Horizon was built on the idea that as we move into space, we take the best of humanity with us, not the worst." Ethan turned to face all the workers in the warehouse. The room was completely silent now. Everyone was watching what was happening. "To everyone who has suffered under Mr. Russell's leadership, I want to say I'm sorry," Ethan said. "What happened? Here was my failure too. I should have been paying closer attention to how our workers were treated." The workers looked at each other in shock. No one had expected the CEO of the whole company to suddenly appear in their warehouse, especially not disguised as a regular worker. "Effective immediately, Mr. Russell is no longer in charge here," Ethan announced. "All the pay cuts he ordered are canceled. Anyone who lost money because of his unfair rules will get that money back in their next paycheck." A small cheer went up from some of the braver workers. Others still looked unsure, as if this might be a trick. "Furthermore," Ethan continued, "starting today, We will begin a complete review of all policies and working conditions at this facility. He waved his hand and a group of well-dressed people entered the warehouse floor. They carried tablets and equipment. These people from the main office will talk with each of you over the next few days. I want to hear everything, good and bad. No one will be punished for telling the truth. Ethan spotted Laura Johnson from Medical Services at the edge of the crowd. Dr. Johnson has agreed to lead a new wellness committee for Mars operations. She will report directly to my office about worker health issues. Finally, Ethan turned back to Russell, who was now being taken away by security guards. As for you, Mr. Russell, you will have a chance to explain your actions to the company review board. As Russell disappeared through the doors, workers began to clap. The sound grew louder as more people joined in, realizing this really was happening. Ethan raised his hands for quiet. This isn't just about replacing one bad manager. This is about changing the whole system. The outer colonies are the future of humanity, and the people who make that future possible deserve to be treated with respect. For the next 2 weeks, Ethan stayed on Mars. He personally listened to worker complaints, reviewed all the warehouse procedures, and started making big changes. The most important change was in how sick workers were treated. From now on, he told the staff at their first meeting without Russell, if you're sick, you stay home and get better. Your pay will not be cut. Your job will be waiting for you when you return. He visited Sam Collins in the medical center. Sam was getting better, but was still weak from his illness. Mr. Carter, Sam said when Ethan entered his room. I still can't believe it was you working next to me all that time. Ethan smiled. How are you feeling, Sam? Much better, sir. The doctors say I can go home tomorrow. Sam looked down at his hands. I'm worried about my job, though, and my daughter's medicine. Your job is safe, Ethan assured him. In fact, I have something else to talk to you about. I was very impressed with how carefully you worked even when you were sick. We need people like you in management positions. Sam's eyes widened. Management? Me? Yes. We're creating a new worker safety team. I'd like you to be part of it. The pay is better, the hours are regular, and you'll help make sure what happened to you doesn't happen to anyone else. Tears filled Sam's eyes. I don't know what to say, sir. Say yes, Ethan suggested with a smile. Yes, of course, yes. Later that day, Ethan met with Laura Johnson to discuss the new wellness program. The medical records were shocking, Laura told him. 20% of the warehouse workers have untreated health problems. Many are afraid to even come to the medical center. That ends now, Ethan said firmly. I want a complete health check for every worker. Anyone who needs treatment gets it immediately. That will be expensive, Laura pointed out. So is losing good workers, Ethan replied. Besides, it's the right thing to do. By the end of the second week, changes were already visible in the warehouse. Workers moved with more energy. They smiled more. And most importantly, productivity was beginning to improve. It's down right now, Olivia reported during their daily call. 12% below Russell's numbers. That's to be expected, Ethan said. His numbers were based on fear and cutting corners. Give it time. The board is worried, Olivia warned. Tell them to be patient. Quality matters more than speed. We're building for the long term here. On his final day on Mars, Ethan called all the workers together one last time. I'm heading back to Earth tomorrow, he told them. But this isn't the end of our changes. It's just the beginning. He introduced Greg Foster, the new warehouse manager. Greg comes from our Europa facility. He has the highest worker satisfaction ratings in the company. He'll be taking over from here. Greg stepped forward. He was a friendly-looking man with a calm voice. I'm looking forward to working with all of you. My door is always open. After the meeting, many workers came up to thank Ethan. Some even wanted to shake his hand or take pictures with him. It was a very different atmosphere from 2 weeks ago. As Ethan was preparing to leave, Frank Miller approached him. I just wanted to say, Frank began nervously. Some of us knew things weren't right with Russell, but we were too afraid to speak up. I'm sorry for that. Fear is a powerful thing, Ethan said. But remember, Horizon is your company too. If something isn't right, I need to know about it. Frank nodded. We won't forget what you did here, sir. The next morning, Ethan boarded the shuttle back to Earth. As the ship lifted off, he watched Mars grow smaller through the window. He felt satisfied with what he had accomplished, but he knew this was just one warehouse in a very large company. There might be other places where workers were being mistreated, other managers who had forgotten what Horizon stood for. He would need to be more vigilant. Earth calling Mr. Carter. The pilot's voice came over the speaker. We have a secure message from your office. Ethan picked up the communication device. Carter here. Sir. Olivia's voice was clear despite the millions of miles between them. I have the latest reports from Warehouse 17. Morale is up 60%, and productivity is already starting to increase. That's good news, Ethan said. There's more, Olivia continued. We've been getting messages from other facilities. Workers are asking if you'll be visiting them next. Ethan smiled. Tell them maybe. And Olivia, start looking into our Jupiter shipyards. I think it's time for Alex Watson to get a new assignment. Already working on it, sir. As Earth grew larger in the viewport, Ethan felt a new determination. The company he had built would not lose its way. He would make sure of that, one facility at a time if necessary. 3 months had passed since Ethan's return to Earth. The changes at Warehouse 17 on Mars were working well. Reports showed that worker happiness was up and sick days were down. Most importantly, the warehouse was now sending out more supplies than ever before and with fewer mistakes. Ethan sat in his office looking at the latest numbers. Looks like treating people well actually helps the business, he said to Olivia, who stood nearby with her tablet. The board is very pleased, Olivia agreed. They were worried at first, but now they're asking if we should make similar changes at all our locations. We should, Ethan said firmly. But first I need to see what's really happening at those places, not just what the reports say. Olivia nodded. She already knew what was coming next. Jupiter shipyards? Yes, I think Alex Watson needs to come out of retirement for another job. 2 weeks later, Ethan found himself on a transport ship headed to Jupiter's moon Europa. This moon was home to Horizon's largest shipbuilding facility, where the company built the vessels that traveled to the far edges of the solar system. The facility had been reporting amazing production numbers for the past year, but there were rumors of corner cutting and safety problems. This time, Ethan was disguised as Alex Watson, a safety inspector. It was a mid-level position that would give him access to all areas of the shipyard without drawing too much attention. The journey to Europa took 8 days. When the ship finally arrived, Ethan was struck by the size of the operation. The shipyard was huge, covering a large part of the moon's surface. Massive ships in various stages of construction rose from the icy ground like a forest of metal trees. First time at Jupiter? A voice asked. Ethan turned to see a tall woman with gray hair and a friendly face. Her name tag read, Patricia Jones, Chief Engineer. Is it that obvious? Ethan asked with a smile. Patricia laughed. Everyone has that same look when they first see the shipyard. It's pretty impressive. Alex Watson, Ethan said, shaking her hand. New safety inspector. Patricia's smile faded a little. You'll want to talk to Bill Adams then. He's head of safety, such as it is. What do you mean by that? Ethan asked. Patricia looked around, then lowered her voice. Let's just say, safety isn't the top priority here. Not with the current production schedule. Before Ethan could ask more questions, a loud voice called from across the arrival area. Jones, back to work. Those engines won't build themselves. Patricia sighed. That's Director Powell. He runs this place like a dictator. Good luck with your inspection, Mr. Watson. You'll need it. As Patricia walked away, Ethan turned to see Director Powell. He was a short man with a red face and cold eyes. He was yelling at a group of workers who weren't moving fast enough for his liking. This doesn't look good, Ethan thought to himself. Over. The next few days, Ethan toured the shipyard, clipboard in hand, making notes about safety issues. And there were many issues to note. Safety equipment was old or missing. Warning signs were covered up. Workers were not given proper training. Most concerning was the way the ships themselves were being built. Ethan knew the proper way to construct a space vessel. There were hundreds of checks and tests that needed to be done at each stage, but here many of these steps were being skipped to save time. On his third day, Ethan was inspecting a nearly finished ship when he heard a loud alarm. Red lights began flashing throughout the facility. "What's happening?" he asked a nearby worker. "Pressure. Test failure on Dock 7, the worker explained, not seeming very worried. "Happens a couple times a week." "A couple times a week?" Ethan was shocked. Pressure test failures should be extremely rare if ships were built correctly. He rushed to Dock 7 where a crowd had gathered. A large ship sat in the testing area, with a visible crack along one side where the hull had failed under pressure. Director Powell was there shouting at the engineers. "Fix it and run the test again. We need this ship finished by tomorrow." "But sir," one engineer protested, "the whole section needs to be rebuilt. The materials might be faulty." "We don't have time for that," Powell snapped. "Patch it and cover it with extra plating. It will hold." Ethan couldn't believe what he was hearing. A patched hull would be dangerous in space. If it failed during a long journey, the crew would die. As the crowd broke up, Ethan approached Bill Adams, the safety director. "Aren't you going to say something?" "That ship won't be safe." Adams looked tired and defeated. "I've tried. Powell doesn't listen. He only cares about meeting production numbers." "But people's lives are at risk," Ethan insisted. "Look, new guy," Adams said quietly, "if you want to keep your job, learn to look the other way. Powell has friends in the company. He's untouchable." That night, Ethan sent a secure message to Olivia. "The situation here is worse than Mars. It's not just worker treatment. They're sending out unsafe ships. We need to act fast." The next morning, Ethan continued his inspection, focusing now on the ships that were nearly ready for delivery. What he found was alarming. Many had similar patch jobs covering potential weak spots. Some had engine parts that hadn't been properly tested. Others had life support systems that were below standard. In the afternoon, he was checking a ship's oxygen system when Patricia Jones found him. "Watson," she said urgently, "Powell is planning to ship out the vessel from Dock 7 tonight. The one that failed the pressure test. He's falsifying the safety records." "He can't do that," Ethan said. "That ship could break apart in space." "He's done it before," Patricia said grimly. "As long as the ships hold together until they're out of the warranty period, he doesn't care what happens after." Ethan knew he had to act immediately. "Thank you for telling me this, Patricia. I need to make a call." "Be careful," she warned. "Powell doesn't like people who get in his way." Ethan found a quiet corner and activated his secure communication device. "Olivia, we need to move now. Powell is sending out an unsafe ship tonight. Start Protocol Sunshine, but add a twist. I need a full engineering team here within 6 hours." "They're already on standby," Olivia replied. "Code word? Carter Epsilon 79. And Olivia, alert the board. This is even worse than we thought." That evening, as workers prepared to launch the patched ship, a fleet of Horizon executive shuttles suddenly appeared in the sky above Europa. They landed near the main facility, and teams of engineers and security personnel streamed out. At the same time, all communication screens in the shipyard lit up with the Horizon Company logo, followed by Ethan's face. Director Powell was on the launch platform when this happened. He stared at the screens in confusion, then at the incoming shuttles. "What is going on?" he demanded. Then he noticed Alex Watson walking toward him, no longer hunched over like a nervous inspector, but standing tall and confident. "Hello, Director Powell," Ethan said, his voice carrying across the now silent platform. "I believe we need to talk about your shipbuilding practices." Powell's face turned as red as the surface of Mars. "Who do you think you are?" he demanded. "I'm Ethan Carter, CEO of Horizon Interplanetary Logistics," Ethan said calmly, "and I'm here to stop you from sending unsafe ships into space." A murmur ran through the crowd of workers. Some looked shocked, others relieved. "This is some kind of joke," Powell sputtered. "You can't be Carter." "I assure you he is," said a woman's voice. Olivia Patel walked up, followed by several board members and a team of engineers. And the board is very interested in what's been happening here. Powell looked around wildly, seeing he was surrounded. Everything I've done has been for the company. We're meeting all our production targets. By risking people's lives, Ethan said firmly. That's not what Horizon stands for. He turned to address the workers. For those who don't know me, I'm Ethan Carter. I founded this company with the belief that as we expand into space, we must bring our best values with us. What I've seen here is the opposite of those values. Ethan pointed at the ship on the launch pad. This vessel failed a pressure test yesterday. Instead of fixing it properly, Director Powell ordered a quick patch job and falsified safety records. The board members looked alarmed. One of them, an older man named Richard Green, stepped forward. Is this true, Powell? We had deadlines to meet, Powell protested. The patch will hold long enough. Long enough for what? Ethan asked angrily. Until the warranty expires? Until the ship is too far from help? What about the crew and passengers who would be on that ship? Powell had no answer. Security personnel moved to either side of him. Ethan addressed the workers again. Effective. Immediately, Director Powell is removed from his position. All launches are suspended until every ship in this yard has been properly inspected. The engineering team was already moving toward the ship on the launch pad. Patricia Jones stepped forward to help them. Ms. Jones, Ethan called. Would you show our engineers what else they should look for? I suspect this isn't the only ship with problems. Patricia nodded eagerly. Yes, sir. I've been keeping records of all the safety violations, even though Powell told me to delete them. Powell lunged toward Patricia. You traitor. I'll make sure you never work in space again. The security guards quickly grabbed Powell and held him back. That's enough, Richard Green said. Take him to the shuttle. The board will deal with him back on Earth. As Powell was led away, Ethan turned to Bill Adams, the safety director who had done nothing to stop the dangerous practices. You had a responsibility to protect people, Mr. Adams. Why didn't you speak up? Adams looked at the ground. I tried at first, but Powell threatened my job. I have a family. So do the people who would have been on those unsafe ships, Ethan said. You're also relieved of duty pending a full review. Over the next 2 weeks, Ethan stayed on Europa, overseeing the inspection of every ship in the yard. What they found was shocking. Nearly half of the completed vessels had serious safety issues that had been covered up or ignored. It will take months to fix all these problems, the lead engineer reported. Then that's how long it will take, Ethan said firmly. Not a single ship leaves this yard until it's completely safe. The board members were concerned about delays and lost money, but Ethan stood firm. What would it cost us if one of these ships failed in deep space? Not just in money, but in lives and trust? We built this company on quality and safety. We need to remember that. In the end, the board agreed. They also agreed to Ethan's plan for changes at the shipyard. Patricia Jones was named the new director. Her first job was to create a new safety system where any worker could report problems, without fear of punishment. I want everyone to understand, Ethan told the workers at a large meeting, that from now on, your safety and the safety of our ships come first. If meeting a deadline means cutting corners, then the deadline will change, not the quality of our work. The workers cheered at this announcement. Many came forward later with ideas for how to improve the shipyard. 1 month after his arrival at Europa, Ethan prepared to return to Earth. The shipyard was still fixing the problems Powell had created, but it was on the right path now. On his last day, Patricia Jones gave him a tour of the changes they had already made. We've improved the testing procedures, she explained, and we're training all workers in safety protocols. It will take time, but we'll get there. I trust you to make it happen, Ethan told her. And remember, you can always contact me directly if there are any problems. As Ethan boarded his shuttle back to Earth, he felt satisfied but also thoughtful. 2 major facilities had been hiding serious problems. How many more issues might be lurking in other parts of his company? Back in his office on Earth, Ethan called a special meeting with Olivia and his top managers. What we found at Mars and Europa is unacceptable, he told them. We need to make changes throughout the entire company. What do you have in mind, sir? one manager asked. First, a new reporting system that lets workers bypass their direct supervisors if they see problems. Second, surprise inspections at all facilities. And third, a complete review of all our procedures to make sure safety and worker well-being come first. That will be a massive undertaking, another manager pointed out. It's necessary, Ethan insisted. We're not just building a company, we're building the future of humanity in space. That future needs to be based on our best values, not our worst. The managers nodded in agreement. The work would be difficult, but they understood its importance. Later, alone with Olivia, Ethan looked out at the stars from his office window. "Do you think Alex Watson will need to make any more appearances?" she asked with a small smile. Ethan considered the question. "I hope not. But if he does, he'll be ready." Where would he go next? Olivia wondered. "I'm thinking about our new colony on Titan," Ethan said. "They're building the first permanent settlement there. It needs to be done right from the beginning." As night fell over Earth, Ethan watched the lights of ships moving between Earth and the moon. His company was helping humanity reach for the stars. But that journey needed to be guided by compassion, safety, and respect for all people. And he would make sure that happened, one facility at a time if necessary. The universe was vast, but the principles that should guide humanity's expansion into it were simple: care for each other, do quality work, and always remember that the people were more important than the profits. That was the true mission of Horizon, and Ethan would never forget it again.